The start to my gardening season was not a good one. I start quite a lot of seedlings indoors under grow lights, as you can see behind me. Today we're going to be having a little tour of those, but I'll link in the description a couple of videos that I did on the awful start that I had. And it was a bit of a mystery, to be honest. I couldn't figure out exactly what was going wrong, but I think I narrowed it down to compost. I repotted everything on. It's taking up quite a lot of space. So today we're just gonna have a little look at it and see whether or not Sylvagrow has saved my seeds. That's got a nice ring to it, hasn't it? My indoor grow setup is sort of, I think, in between the kind of fancy setup that people have and the super basic one. So I've just got this shelf. It's a really cool IKEA shelf actually, and it's customizable, so you can like raise and lower all the heights. We've got a sort of second backup light down there. This is a Garpson, it's super cheap Amazon thing. And then look at the super convenient shelf at the middle for storing seeds and all sorts of other stuff. All the seed trays, they live up there. But what is actually growing? On the right, we've got the chili peppers, and on the left, we've got a bit of everything else. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this today is because this is not ideal. This is not a very good example, really, of an optimized grow space. Let's put it that way. Up here, this is the grow light I'm using. It's a Viper Spectra P100. I think so anyway. I'll put it on the screen if not. And it's pretty good. It's a really powerful light. It's currently on about 50%. It's got a nice little dimmer, which is a really good feature that you want to have for a grow light, because you can kind of cater to the various stages. But anyway, the main issue with it is the size of it. So you can see it covers quite a small area. If I was being like super optimization as well, I would have this lined around the edges with a kind of reflective foil or something like that. But this is our office, and my partner was very strongly against that, which is fine. That's fine, isn't it? Jess didn't want it, so that's fine. Anyway, on the right, so the peppers have recovered nicely. They're starting to really look like some healthy plants, but maybe they look slightly healthier than they actually are because of the kind of jungle effect of having all these plants squeezed in together. They're certainly not bad, but most of these were sown January. So the ones at the back were sown January 1st. These are my chinense varieties. You can see they're nice broad leaves. And then as we come to the front with the thinner leaves, these are my other varieties, all sorts of different ones in here, and they were sown mostly around January the 1st. It certainly could be better. And on the left, we've got much bigger kind of competing plants. So we've got all of these cucumbers, which are starting to spread out. We also have a couple of melons. This one is looking really good actually. That's a sugar baby. And there's another one down here. Look at that, both planted at the same time, potted on. That sugar baby is not loving life. So the main thing that I want to do today is basically pot on these chili peppers. They're just getting to the point where they're asking for it. And the main way you can tell that is just when you start to see a few roots coming out of the bottom there. I've checked these, and that is the case for most of the faster growing varieties at the front. I haven't checked at the back. So this is one of my butcherlokias. It's looking pretty healthy, but not many sets of leaves. We've got some nice compact growth, but I've just had a look at these roots and wow, these are definitely ready to be potted on. Actually, that's a little bit of a surprise. If you get the main parts right with your indoor growing, the challenge often becomes juggling for space and dealing with the timing, okay, of how much light there is outdoors and how cold it is outdoors as well. And that's kind of now the point that I'm at. I'm fairly happy with the health of the plants, but there's too many. I don't have enough space. I don't have enough light. We have a conservatory that you will see in a bit when I pot these on, but it's not south facing, so it really does not get much light. It's kind of northwest facing, so it only gets a little bit of light in the evening. I think my plan is basically going to be to get all the cucumbers and maybe half the aubergines out of the house, get them up to the greenhouse, but we have a really cold couple of nights on the way. So I'm going to be potting these on, and then just for a few days in the house, it's going to be a little bit chaotic, and we're going to be juggling plants around, and I might incur the wrath of my other half, but that's fine. Oh, that's a good rhyme, isn't it? Anyway, the other thing I do need to do that I forgot to mention is actually pot on a lot of these things. So for example, we've got things like this Merlin cucumber, which is just, it's been pot bound for so long. It's really pale. It's full of flowers. You know, everything is screaming, pot me on. Oh, there's another one as well behind me. check out this bad boy. So this is a Crimson Crush tomato. Now I've only just sown my tomato seeds, link to the video up here, but this is an overwintered Crimson Crush. I actually saw Charles Dowding talking about this because Crimson Crush is an F1 variety, which means you can't grow the tomato from seed unless you buy fresh F1 seed. So what I did at the end of last season towards winter, I took some of the side shoots off the Crimson Crush and I tried to overwinter them. I just stuck them in soil. And look at this, it's going absolutely bonkers. There's a couple of side shoots on here actually that I need to take off as well. And there is one, you might have spotted it, there's one hiding in the chilies right at the back. So you get the picture. There's lots of things to pot on. There's not much space. I'll be using the backup light down at the bottom there. It's pretty crap compared to this beast. But I'm going to be dedicating most of the good light and the good space to the chili peppers. I love potting on. I love it when today's like a weekend and you know when you just get a nice big block of time, you can just put a podcast on or put some music on and just really chill out. Another thing to mention as well, so I'm going from, normally what I do is I miss out this stage and I go from these tiny little pots into quite big 2.5 litre pots, and that's not ideal at all. So I rushed out this morning, I got some, I don't even know how big the pots are. I think they're just called 9 centimeters, which is really annoying in terms of litre. I think they might be about 1 litre, and that's what we're going to be putting these into. So I'm a bit nervous about how much space that is going to take up, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The other thing as well is lots of these plants, such as this one, actually have 3 plants in. So this is my Sugar Rush Long Peach. They're all going to be competing, and this was just me being a bit overzealous with some of the seed sowing. So some of these I will give away, some of them unfortunately I will have to cull, which I hate doing, but it's all about space and I only have one greenhouse dedicated for the chilies as well, in theory. Now that I can see all of this in the cold hard light of day, it's really interesting actually. It just makes it a little bit easier to see things. There's certainly a bit of an illusion that you get when you've got all these small pots that are all kind of crammed together. And interestingly, some of these, this is my Kashmiri, some of them are really tall, but I wouldn't quite call this leggy. If you want to know a bit more about leggy chili plants, Chili Chump has just released an excellent, very short video that I'll link in the description if you want to know kind of how deep to plant them or what to do with them. Do go and check that out. I don't want to go into too much detail on the potting mix. I'll post a link in the description. That's based on Chili Chumps as well, in a video that I also feature in. So I'm just going to get these potted on, and we'll see how much space it takes up afterwards. I do actually feel a bit guilty about these cucumbers especially. They look really sad. Potting on really is just one of my favourite jobs. It takes quite a long time, but I think my favourite thing about it is that even though I would say I've been fairly attentive with these plants, you know, I've been keeping an eye on them, when they're all together and they're under their grow light, you don't get to just kind of pick them up and really kind of just get to know them a little bit, you know? Sounds a bit funny, but like there's just details that you miss, and I've just really enjoying going through and finding some of those details, you know, like the deep kind of purple stems on the underside of the Buena Malata, the way that they're kind of got this green and purple striping on their stems. Just being able to enjoy the form of some of the Chinense varieties, especially this Dorset Naga, is looking absolutely fantastic. It's all looking much better in terms of structure. In terms of physically, some of the plants are actually looking dramatically worse. These guys have really like flopped over much quicker than I normally experience with chili peppers. I'm not sure if that's something to be maybe slightly concerned about, but we've got this I've tried to keep as my main kind of chili pepper tray, although there is a sneaky tomato in here. Just in front of me, there's like a tray there, and that's all for my dad, basically. They are all the spare chilies that are going away. Lots of these have been potted on into the bigger pots, but not nearly as many as I was expecting have gone into these kind of 9 centimetre pots. To be completely honest with you, I slightly misjudged it. I think that's maybe a slight understatement. When I picked up those chilies at the beginning of the video and had the roots poking through the bottom, they were kind of like the odd ones out, really, to be honest with you. There were a lot that were like that, but all of the ones that have gone into the bigger pots were looking really healthy in terms of their root structures. Lots of them weren't though, which is why they've stayed in here, and a lot which had kind of 2 plants in each cell, in each little pot, have been transplanted into their own pots, so they'll grow a lot healthier and a lot stronger. And in fact, I've only potted on 15 chili plants into these big pots. One of these is a sneaky tomato. I've also strung up my melons, my cucumbers, potted on a lot of the cucumbers over here. So everything is going to hopefully bounce back. And there's a couple of little chilies on here that I couldn't quite find room for anywhere else, but it's wonderful. I think, you know, the season's slightly behind. I would like the peppers to be doing slightly better, but in some ways it's very good that their root systems are slightly underdeveloped and they're a little bit, you know, less grown than I would like, because it means they don't take up quite so much space. Because I didn't actually have to pot on that many chili peppers, the situation up here is looking a lot better than I had imagined. Pretty much all of the chili peppers are here under the premium space with the nice grow light. There are literally 1 or 2 peppers down the bottom with the cucumbers and the melons. I should say as well, I've been a bit ambitious with the melons and the cucumbers. You're not really meant to start them this early. It's sort of just a bit of a gamble, just seeing what I could get away with, seeing if it would work in this space. Doesn't really, it's the lesson I've learned, but you know, it's one of those things. I think the plan is still for me to get those cucumbers away and into the greenhouse as well. There might be 1 or 2 nighttime temperatures that knock them back a little bit, but I think they're going to be better off getting full sun all day and nice warm greenhouse temperatures compared to being under a rubbish grow light or just on a rubbish windowsill. In terms of the peppers, I don't know, a little bit, it's not the best start to my season. You know, we had a calamitous start and now they're kind of in the middling. You know, it's not an amazing recovery, but they are doing much, much better, and it's not a bad start to a season, is it? I've definitely damaged a couple of root systems on some of these slightly immature plants, but mostly the ones that were potted on are the stronger ones. So we're just going to cross our fingers and hope that we have a good rest of the season. Generally, I aim to get these guys into the greenhouse around kind of mid-April, May at the latest, but we can still have a very good season if things go a little bit wonky or they don't go according to plan. They should be going into their final pots around the end of May as well. So we're just going to keep them moving, keep them getting potted on, but it's so much easier once you've got the greenhouse to work in and there's a lot more space. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. An extra special thank you to my chili pepper tier patrons. More information about my Patreon can be found below. There's another video about my chili peppers that you can watch here. And to everyone, thank you ever so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.